Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, Ghana secures major financial boost, signs $2 billion loan agreement with South Korea to support development agenda. And with barely 6 months to the elections, we gauge the mood of entrepreneurs as they navigate the impact of cedi depreciation and inflation. My name is Darrell Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. Thanks for being with us, everyone. First up, Ghana secured a major financial boost for its development aspirations, inking a $2 billion framework arrangement with South Korea's Economic Development Cooperation Fund. The deal, signed on the margins of the 2024 Korea-Africa Summit, will bolster the implementation of Ghana's key priority programs spanning infrastructure, agriculture, health, education, energy, roads, and transport, as well as ICT over the next 5 years. The signing ceremony marks a significant milestone in the two nations' long-standing bilateral economic development partnership. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, signed on behalf of the government of Ghana, while the Foreign Minister of Korea, Cho Tae-yo, signed for the government of the Republic of Korea. Present at the signing ceremony were Ghana's Foreign Minister, Shelia Yokoboche, and other dignitaries of both countries. Well, Paul Frimpong is a development economist, also executive director of the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory. He joins me on Zoom to discuss this story. Good afternoon to you, Paul. How would you explain this renewed interest by South Korea in Africa? How important is this relationship?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I believe that as we saw the Korea-Africa summits, I think it's in line with what all partners to the African development journey are seeking to achieve, and of course, also what Africa is trying to achieve in terms of courting relationship with strategic partners, irrespective of where they are coming from, as long as Africa finds an interest in the achievement of that partner, they believe that can translate to what we are actually aspiring to achieve, then of course there's no issue sitting down at the table to dialogue in those instances to find the right path, find the right partners, understand the development journey of those partners that you believe can translate to something tangible in our continent. So I think it's in line with that. Of course, Africa is and will continue to be a strategic continent for whatever, so many reasons, as you can think of, being economic, politically, and of course, also, if you look at even future industry. So it is the interest of all parties that have the means to engage the continent to do so. And I believe that's what South Korea is trying to do, just like we have in recent times other periodical engagements between Africa and other single countries. So we have China, we have the US African Debt Summit, we have the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, which is happening. We have the Arab Africa Summit, and then you have the Korea, we have Turkey Africa Summit. So it is in line with the development agenda of both parties. As a continent, we are looking for partners. The African is saying that we are open to partners, we are open to business, we are seeking and courting relationship from all quarter respectful location. As long as the continent believes that there are lessons to be learned and there are resources that can be tapped into to unlock our development, that they would like to engage. And I believe that's what we are seeing in terms of the Korea-Africa Summit.
Interesting, the summit happening at the time most African countries are beginning to look east. While South Korea pledged millions of dollars to African countries, Ghana is receiving, just like I mentioned earlier, $2 billion loans to undertake priority programs. How significant is this aid program for both countries?
Yeah, it's significant for Ghana, of course, because we all know that there are a lot of gaps that we have, especially when it comes to our infrastructure development ambitions. And these are all capital intensive. projects that requires to get billions of dollars, to be able to finance those infrastructure gaps that we have. Of course, we are also worried about the fact that we are dealing with debt at levels that might not be sustainable. So we need to be also tread cautiously, not just because we open our arms and we believe that our partners are willing to give us, so we just go and take. We need to also be strategic about our debt sustainability levels as well, because you don't want to take on a lot of money that I don't think we'll not be able to pay. As we find ourselves in recent times where we have to do what we call debt restructuring, both domestic and externally. Aid programs over the years have proven not to be that fruitful, because at the end of the day, you realize that the money actually do not get to the real reasons, the real action behind those money to be released, and it gets swamped up in certain quarters that we find ourselves dealing with corruption and corruption-related issues. So we have to be very strategic in the kind of loans or aid that we are getting, and making sure that this money goes into the right places as we have envisioned. Of course, I believe that the $2 billion aid or loan from South Korea is triggered by the kind of program that the government of Ghana presented, that in the case of the next 5 years, these are the priority areas we are looking at, and we believe that we can get the support of about $2 billion. It can help us unlock the potential within these 5 years. And it is based on this program that we submitted that we are able to get this $2 billion. So it behoves on us to ensure that this money indeed goes to tackle those programs that we submitted. And this cannot be the responsibility of South Korea. This can only be the responsibility of the government of Ghana. And we have to make sure that we work on these things as we are getting this money coming in.
All right. There are assumptions that the interest shown by Asian countries is all about our natural resources. We know South Korea to be one of the top manufacturing companies. Do you get that sense?
I mean, that rhetoric is there, and of course, obviously, we all know that most countries are partnering with Africa for strategic interest in terms of our natural resources. It's a known fact. It's not just South Korea. It's what we have been doing with the West for all these years. It's the same we're doing with all countries that are interested in the continent of Africa. That is a known fact. It is about how we strategically leverage on the kind of resources that we have to unlock the kind of development journey that we look at. The size of South Korea, it's about 1.3 trillion, $1.7 trillion. The entire South of Africa is about 3.2 to about $3.4 trillion. And so obviously, even the size, you can see that Africa's size is larger than that South Korea. But of course, we understand that there are key industry sectors that South Korea leads in the textiles, in the automobiles, in the electronics, that we believe that as a continent, there are lessons to be learned. So obviously, I mean, look at South Korea of recent times was an aid-dependent country. Now it is having meetings with the heads of state from Africa, calling the shots with Africa. So it is not the fact that maybe because they're interested in natural resources, therefore we should be wary or cautious about them. No. It's the fact that we have to take our own decisions, that indeed, based on the kind of advantage that we have, this is what we demand of our partners that want to do business with us. And it can only come from us, from whether at the government level, whether at the continental level, based on our own programs, the continental project that we have, that we are leveraging on to unlock the potential for the continent of Africa. It has to decide whether indeed our natural resources are going to be exploited against us or it's going to be used to our own advantage.
What then should be the approach by Ghana towards its relations with South Korea in order that there is a win-win outcome for both countries?
I think it has to be the same approach that we use for our development partners. And it has to be about the agenda that we set for ourselves as a country. Trust me, when people do the blame game, for example, when people attack a country like China or maybe India or any other country for exploiting, let's say, Ghana, I find it very difficult to accept that kind of narrative. No country can force you to do anything that you don't want to do. If you go to the table without your own programs and plans, then you leave yourself to be blamed. So it's up to us to decide the kind of development journey that we have. We are dealing with South Korea. Obviously, at the click, you'll be able to understand the South Korean economy. You'll be able to know what they have the comparative advantage in. You can decide, you can know what the US has the comparative advantage in, what the UK has the comparative advantage in, so that when you engage in these countries, you know the priority area that you are putting on the table. That is what you leverage on to have your conversation with them. And it has to be the same approach for every other partner. We look at the economy of that country, we decide that, okay, based on their strength in this capacity, which we are lacking, we believe that we can cultivate a relationship with them and we can improve on these sectors of our own. I think that should be the approach we should go with South Korea, as well as any other strategic partner that we are supporting going forward.
Thank you so much, Paul Frimpong, Executive Director of the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory, also a development economist. Thank you so much for your time on the marketplace. Well, next is business and politics, and today we gauge the mood of entrepreneurs with barely 6 months to the elections. Joining me on Zoom, Harrison Matthew, who is Chief Executive of 1115 Restaurant, also Joyce Owusu, who is CEO of Purple Trends. Good afternoon to you both. There's a lot happening with the economy right now. The cedi depreciating, prices of goods and services going up. How are you surviving this period? I'll begin with you, Harrison.
Hi, good afternoon, Daryl, and to everybody watching us. So it's been a hard one, especially with the cedi depreciation going on. If you were buying anything, say, 2 months ago, and now you are probably spending a lot more than you were 2 months ago. So let's just take, if I had to import anything that was around, say, $10, and I needed 100 cedis to import that 2 months ago. Now I need about 15 cedis or more to be able to get that coming in. Not to talk much of the charges that come with importing these things into the country, even at the ports when the things arrive. So there's a rise in cost of doing business, and for us in the restaurant space where we buy, most of the things that we buy are imported, we're having to spend a lot more on production, and it's even hard for you to even think of increasing prices, because at this point our purchasing power as individuals is actually going down. So while prices are increased for those of us producing, we also can't charge more because everybody who is in the economy is experiencing almost the same thing. So you have less money to spend, and you can't also increase prices, which means that your profit margin is almost eroded. If not running into losses, you're actually eroding all your profit margin. So let's start from there.
Yeah, and while you run a restaurant, and in the past couple of days, we have been running stories about the hikes in the prices of food items. So I can imagine the struggle. Joyce, you're into the fashion business. What's your story?
Daryl, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers as well. The cedi depreciation, the current economic situation, it's actually making it quite difficult for entrepreneurs. Running businesses in Ghana here, very difficult. For me, in the fashion industry, there is a saying that if someone hasn't been able to feed himself, I mean, to think of clothing is a secondary matter. People think of feeding first. Now, the way purchasing or the way sales used to be, as at last year, it's way lower as compared to this year. We are just in the second half of the year, and I can tell you that the cost of raw materials have gone up. We are paying a lot for electricity, for production, and for fuel and every other thing. Things have gone up. And just as Harrison said, you can't really increase the prices of your products because the consumer out there feels you are charging too much, and it's not even your doing. This is the situation we find ourselves in right now. Things are quite difficult. Things are not the same.
Yeah, Joyce. So if you're to list the issues or the issues that are of importance to you as the political season heats up, what would that list be?
For now, I believe that in every election year, things are a bit softer, easy. There is a bit of fluidity in the system, but as it is now, it's not like that. I would plead in with the politicians that much as the economy is not as fluid as it's supposed to be, as we know for every election year, there should be peace. Their campaigning activities should be done with a lot of mindfulness, with the hope Ghanaian people in mind and the young business owner also in mind.
Yeah, I was asking in relation to the economy. I mean, we've talked about the cedi depreciating, we've talked about inflation.
Oh.
I mean, for the kind of work that you do, what are the issues that matter to you?
Okay, so the issue that matters to me has to do, first of all, with the strength of the cedi to the dollar. Most of the things that we use in our production are imported. Again, they should also revise the tariffs. They should find ways and means to make sure that even if it's not, they cannot go back to getting it to be cheaper than it is now. There should be some sort of stability that it won't happen that every 3 months, every 4 months, there is an increase in tariffs. It's really affecting businesses. And then also on import duties, whether by air or through the port or the harbor, they should also check that and, make sure that they do something about it. There are policies regarding these areas that would make lives easier for the entrepreneur in Ghana.
Yeah, great stuff. Harrison, you're in the food business. I'm sure inflation is key on your list.
Yes, Daryl. So inflation is key. The lending rates, interest rates on loans is also one thing that we should look at. I always say that the government has no business in employing people. You should create an enabling environment for small business to thrive and then be able to employ people. So if you have proper loan schemes, you have good interest rates, you're able to work on the import duties, the rates of import duties, utility prices, but fuel is a big one. Power is also another big one. So for me, I have a plant, and if I run this plant for 2 days, I think 2 months ago, I was spending around 600 cedis to run the plant for 2 days. Now it's almost 700 cedis to run the plant for 2 days. So you can imagine what is. So stability of the cedi is one that we need, but that should be driven by us being able to produce a lot of the things that we consume. Daryl, I've mentioned a few times that until we're able to produce majority of the things that we consume, even use in preparing the food that we eat, the cedi will continue to fall against the dollar because we are an import-driven economy. So what is the government going to do to encourage people to grow? And I told the story of while doing some work in Ashanti region, some farmers were given the assurance that their produce will be purchased right after producing them. Everybody went into producing tomatoes because they knew there was ready market for it. What systems or what measures are these political parties going to put in place to ensure that when they come, the farmer is sure that when I produce, I'm going to get it bought, or it's going to be bought at a fair price, not a price that is a killer price, I should say.
Yeah, and Joyce, the political parties are campaigning. We've heard them talk about stuff like the 24-hour economy, digitalization. Are there any ideas that you find promising that you feel would help improve the business environment that are touching the issues that entrepreneurs like you face?
Let me start with digitalization. Post-COVID, most businesses that really want to stay in business are moving towards digitalization, finding ways and means to use technology to get their businesses, their products, and their services out there. So far, I think we are already in that era. I don't know what new thing is coming on board. We know that currently AI is up and a lot of businesses are using it in diverse ways or in diverse means. I'm interested and I want to know what more it can give us. Is it going to digitalization in a way to enhance development, to get more jobs? Even for me as an entrepreneur, how is it going to benefit me? I'm still yet to find out. Trust me, I'm saying these things because over the years, they've come up with policies, and when I say they, politicians, policies and promises in manifestos. So this time around, I would rather wait and watch and see. Talking about 24-hour economy, I don't know if we are there yet, but then I'm sure that the person promising it has a reason for promising and he knows why he's promising it. So again, whoever comes into power, I'll wait and watch what they can give unto us. But for me, as an entrepreneur right now, to be honest, I am not looking up to any politician. All that, when I say any politician with the things that they're talking about, all that I need is a conducive environment to run my business. As Harrison said, the interest rates are killing. The tariff rates, power, fuel, they become so burdensome on us. If they can find ways and means to offset some of these burdens to make it easy for us to run our businesses and stay in the country to help develop Ghana together, I think it will help all of us.
Harrison, any ideas that excite you?
I mean, I'm happy about the 24-hour economy. I already believe that Ghana already runs more like a 24-hour economy. If you drive through the streets of Accra at night, you realize that when the market closes, there are people who also start their own business on the side of our pavements and all that. So it's a good idea, but we need to look at how to implement and actually make it functional and beneficial to entrepreneurs. So that's one thing that. Another thing is, going digital. How do you call them? As Global is out. Jumia Food is also out. It means that doing business online is not cheap here in Ghana. So whilst we talk about going digital with our business and everything we do, we should look at how to provide incentives for small business to do business online. So for example, if I need to place an ad on any social media platform now, we're asking for taxes. I need to pay a tax to get that done. Can it be reduced? If I need to put my food on any online platform, the taxes alone means that I have to almost double the price I charge if you walk into the restaurant compared to if you have to buy from me, because they are either charging me 30% and above of whatever I'm charging for a plate of food. But these are all things that we need to put in and also make them. It's easy for governments to put in place taxes. Say, let's tax this, let's start A, let's start B. It's easier for them to do. If you don't provide incentives and an avenue for businesses to grow, and you try taxing them, everybody want to find a way around that. So how do we get a business to go to a point, give them value to a point where when we ask for taxes, everybody feels that, okay, yes, this is what I'm gaining, this is what the government is providing, so therefore it's okay for me to pay my taxes. So I want to repeat, no government should worry about creating jobs. It should create an enabling environment for us, SMEs, people with ideas to function and function properly, and this economy will actually grow to the point we all want it to get to.
All right, thank you so much, Harrison Mati, Chief Executive of 1115 Restaurant, also Joyce Owusu, Chief Executive, Purple Trends. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives with barely 6 months to the elections. Now, residents, particularly traders in Echi Amafrom, a major fish mongering community along the Volta River in Kwewu Amafrom plains of the eastern region, are demanding the construction of a bridge across the river to aid their movement and business. The pontoon is currently the only reliable and safe means of transport for communities located on either end of the river banks. The worry is that in case of any breakdown, their inability to hire a boat or canoe to cross the river could cost their lives and livelihoods. MFA Atiamwa Eli traveled along the stretch and interacted with them.
Free a hakodon kokrum kwano and then Vuroga hasiho, well, Vuroga Holabiosi,
frustration, exhaustion from persistent disapproval, and bottled up anger all waiting to explode. This is perhaps the best way to describe the mood and condition in which residents and traders at Echi Amafrom find themselves. They are certainly not in favor of what has become a norm. As tax-paying citizens, they deserve an equal share of the national infrastructure. All they want is improved road infrastructure, and where that will not be possible anytime soon, a bridge to safely cross the Volta Lake to enable them go about their daily chores.
Meti boat mu wonsuo ni so kwa ketepa. Ye ba inflama. Ase ye weni. Frama ni bo asokyere ni gu boat ni etim. Ye bre papa.
Ye ha na aduane ni sika nyina afiri ba. Ye sere ye mpanifo se omutwa omani no omehwe yen. Apemfo ne nkwala na ye mmobo.
Choro kokru mo vado afram press echi amomonyo.
Traders of the popular smoked Volta delicacy known as akosombo fish, who ply their trade here, say their businesses are collapsing. It's expected that they engage in such a trade because their natural habitat is along the Volta Lake. Unlike visitors or public sector workers who use the route as a transit, their home and livelihood are around the lake. The harsh economic conditions have not spared them. In fact, their condition has worsened. Vana, Comfort, and Mamadura have plied their trade here for over a decade. They are not happy about the state of affairs, particularly at Echi Amanfrum.
Me ba e bia 2 million 1 million me hu sokura ama ka ba fi
Yan de tonfo nso ye wo kwan ihu ba bia yeti yenya edwa ketwa apatamu anke ye betena esan se ha yeti ye ne sore wo chena tena ho aye oha wo bebre ama yen enne ye beto ochena ye nto ade eto no ne kwa na ekosoro sabe yesra o mampeni ni mpenifo sai omumeboan.
Travelers to and from Afram Plains have only 2 routes to reach their destinations. It's either via the Eastern Corridor Road through Pando or through the eastern region town of Kwu, continuing with the pontoon to the other side. The long distance involved in using the Pando stretch compels most travelers from the central and southern parts of the country to prefer the pontoon after going through the Kwu Ridge. The pontoon is just one, carting both cargo and passengers across the lake every other hour. If you miss it on whichever side of the river you find yourself, you will need to wait 1 hour for its return and almost another hour for loading before takeoff. Dora and a cab driver fear that in case of emergency, lives could be lost if the individual is unable to afford the cost of hiring a boat.
Ya kwa free akosi donko kromanye awo kan we do bedru kwan mu no wawu aha so bridge nda nsuo no so panto yi sey a uniska ba han boat obewu adansuo na no
chikrum wase no ye hawo no de do so pa ye brepa nya easy we no pa na nka se me twa first panto na menko but because of panto no ntino e kwan ni so nti my ya nti menko for nyina mo adwa na aja me nti aka menko nti sira fe na masamba do different bu fufuro asana menko nti ma ye hawo no de do so ha pa nti bridge no mutimi ye force no mo force ye maya ka bebo ai pa.
Despite their years of experience in the craft of smoking fish, these traders often watch their fish go bad because of the poor patronage, which they blame on the poor and tortuous access to their market. This community's plea for a bridge is not just a call for convenience, but a cry for survival and economic stability.
And that's the marketplace. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching.